I'm Brock Romanek, the driving force behind Zippy Point. Today, Kevin LaCroix joins us to talk about Dino insurance, an area for which he is known as the man. That's not only because he's been in the field for almost 40 years, wearing all sorts of different hats, but because he's been diligently blogging about the topic for nearly 15 years on the Dino Diary, a truly tremendous blog. But Kevin does have a day job. He's the guy you hire to help negotiate your coverage with the D&O insurance carrier. He's a lawyer. The D&O insurance stuff is legalese intensive, trust me. And he serves as executive vice president for RT ProExec, a division of RT Specialty. RT ProExec is an insurance intermediary focused exclusively on management liability issues. By the way, if you're new to Dino Insurance, make sure you check out the right side of Kevin's blog. You'll see some nuts and bolts about Dino Insurance today on Zippy Point. So Kevin, why don't you explain for us for a minute, what you do for your clients? And I know you're advisor for people looking for Dino, meeting their Dino needs. And then what do you think a good advisor, what do you do that makes you a good advisor?
Well, I'll start with the second question first, and then I'll talk about how I go about it. What a good advisor should do first and foremost is process the transaction, which in the case of D&O insurance is actually a fairly sophisticated transaction, not only because it's a complex product, but also because there are a lot of moving parts. And a good advisor will make sure that that whole process goes smoothly, which frankly in the current marketplace is a bit of a challenge. But beyond just processing the transaction, you need an advisor that is familiar with the marketplace and the product and understands all of the available terms and conditions in order to ensure that the program that's finally put in place is the best available in the marketplace for that buyer. We mentioned a moment ago how many insurers there are. Finding the right combination of insurers for any particular buyer is a combination of many things, including affordability, but also the terms and conditions that competitors are willing to offer, and structuring the right program for that buyer. A skilled advisor should also be able to help the buyer decide how much insurance to buy. There is no single right answer to the question, what is the right amount of insurance? So what the advisor should be able to do is help the buyer think about the important issues, as well as provide data to try and provide a little science to what could be an otherwise very subjective process. And then finally, a good advisor should be there to provide claims advisory services in the event of a claim. There is some irony that that's the last point I mentioned, because in the end, that's all the buyer is buying is the experience they're going to have if they have a claim. And sadly, claims services is often the last thing that gets talked about. For any prospective buyers out there that are listening, I would say start with that question. If you're interviewing potential advisors, start with a question. Tell me about your claims advisory services. Tell me what you would help me with if we have a serious D&O claim. And you're going to find the answers to those questions very widely. It's probably the single most important thing, because all insurance is about is what happens if you have a claim. And if the advisor ducks and runs when there's a problem, that doesn't do you much good. And so what do? I'm a lawyer by training. I've been involved with insurance one way or another for almost 40 years. Claims advisory is the most important thing that I do. And I'm there if claims look like they're going to go off the tracks, to try and keep them on the tracks, or to tell clients what to do if they've gotten off the tracks and how you can try and get the process to work better from the perspective of the policyholder. I also spend a lot of time talking to corporate executives and company boards. I'm actually doing an interview later today with a publicly traded company's board. They're a company that's in serious financial condition, and they want to understand what that might mean both for their insurance purchase, but also for types of claims they might have and how the policy would respond. I also spend a lot of time with the carriers. We don't limit our negotiations just to the transaction context. We are constantly trying to reach pre-agreement on what terms and conditions the carriers will offer so that we don't have to reinvent the wheel every transaction. That enables us to process transactions much more quickly and smoothly, because we know going in what a given carrier is going to offer for certain types of accounts. So that helps smooth the process for the buyers. And then obviously I'm trying to drum up business like everybody else. So I spend a lot of time trying to do marketing events to try and encourage buyers to consider hiring us as opposed to our competitors. We all have to do that. We all have to play that game. And of course it's
Well, you do it more than most. You got the Dino diary blog.
Yeah, and it's funny, Brock, that you should mention that, because people will ask me about the blog and say, you know, does it produce business? And it does. And I'm quite proud of the business that I've realized as a result of the blog. But it's really more of a brand development thing than, you know, an economist would not necessarily be persuaded that it's worth all the time and effort that I put into it from a business perspective. But I would disagree, because I think, building a personal brand, building a company brand a lot of things contribute. And, when I go out into the marketplace on behalf of a client, I can count on being recognized and well known. And how do you put a value on that?
People come up to me and act like they've known me forever, and I'm like, I think I've met this person before, and they haven't, but they feel like they know you because of your style of blogging, which is can be very personal at times, which helps connect. Yeah, it's awesome. It's awesome. Check it out if you haven't checked it out before. Thank you, Kevin.